Welcome back, everyone, to the 21st Century Man podcast. We're going to be jumping into another deep dive today, and this time we're tackling Chapter 32
Ooh, Chapter 32.
from the book that gives this show its name, The 21st Century Man, and,
Big one.
big one. Yeah, absolutely. And you, the listener, were the one who suggested this one. It's all about kicking sugar, which, let's be honest,
Oh, yeah.
it's something we all struggle with in the modern world, right?
It's a challenge. We're surrounded by sugar everywhere, temptations at every corner, it feels like.
It really does.
And, the chapter starts off strong, doesn't pull any punches right out of the gate. It quotes Karen Salmonson, who says, "Sugar is the sociopath of foods. It acts sweet, but it's really poison."
Such a powerful quote, and it really kind of sets the tone, right?
Yay.
For this critical look at how much sugar we're all consuming.
Absolutely.
Now, you probably already know that too much sugar isn't exactly, a health food. But this chapter really lays out some stark figures about just how much the average person is actually consuming.
Oh, it's crazy.
So get this, the average American adult consumes about 17 teaspoons of added sugar every day. That's a lot.
Every day. Wow.
Every single day.
That's a lot of sugar.
And just to put that in perspective, the American Heart Association recommends no more than 9 teaspoons for men daily. So we're talking almost double the recommended limit.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Huge difference.
It really makes you think, what does all that extra sugar really mean for our bodies?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the chapter actually gives some pretty interesting historical context here to illustrate just how dramatically our sugar intake has increased over time.
Okay, I'm interested. I like history.
I think you'll like this. 200 years ago, get this, the annual sugar intake was a measly 2 pounds per person.
2 pounds per year? That's like nothing.
Pretty much nothing. Now, fast forward to 1970, that number skyrockets to 123 pounds.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
It's a massive jump. And today, we're looking at a staggering 152 pounds of sugar per person every year.
Okay, so that's like, what, 6 cups of sugar a week? Every week?
That's exactly right. 6 cups of sugar every week.
That's mind-boggling. I mean, our bodies simply haven't evolved to handle that kind of constant sugar bombardment, right?
That's the thing. We are not built for this.
Right.
Now, the 21st Century Man is pretty quick to clarify a really important point. We're not talking about naturally occurring sugars here. The ones you find in whole foods like vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. Those complex carbohydrates that come packaged with all the good stuff, the fiber and the nutrients.
Right. Those are good for you.
Those are good for you. It's not about demonizing all sugar.
Okay, so what is the book focused on then? What's the real villain here?
So the book really emphasizes that the main culprit is overconsumption of added sugars.
Okay, added sugars. So that's the stuff that's like intentionally put into our food.
Exactly. It's the sugar that's added during processing or preparation.
Yeah.
And we all know about the obvious culprits, right? Sodas, candy, baked goods, desserts.
Right, the sweet stuff.
But here's the thing. These added sugars are lurking in so many places that you might not expect. They're in foods that appear healthier and even in savory foods.
Really? I wouldn't think sugar would be in savory foods.
It's a little sneaky. It's almost like you have to become a food detective.
Yeah, you really have to read labels carefully.
Absolutely. And these added sugars, the chapter calls them empty calories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a fitting description because you're getting that sweetness, maybe a temporary burst of energy.
Yeah, that quick hit.
But you're not getting any real nutritional value along with it. So your body might feel satisfied for a moment, but it's still craving those essential vitamins and minerals that it really needs to thrive.
So it's like fooling your body in a way. You feel full, but you're not actually getting what you need.
Exactly. You're not giving it the good stuff. And this ties into another concept that the book delves into, which is the standard American diet, or, as it's often abbreviated, SAD.
SAD, yeah, I've heard of that. Pretty accurate name, if you ask me.
It really is. So the chapter highlights how this typical dietary pattern that so many of us follow is absolutely overloaded with refined carbohydrates. They call them fast carbs, things like white pasta, white bread, white rice, even potatoes.
Okay.
The problem is, our bodies break these down into simple sugars very quickly.
And that's not good.
Not ideal. So we get this rapid spike in blood sugar, which is that temporary energy rush, but what goes up must come down, right?
Right, the crash.
The crash. And all that excess glucose that's flooding your system, where does it go?
Stored as fat. Right, that's what I've always heard.
You got it.
Ugh.
Gets stored as fat.
Yeah.
And it's a natural process, but When we're constantly bombarding our bodies with these fast carbs and all this extra sugar, it becomes a chronic issue. And that's how we end up with weight gain and other health problems over time.
So it's not just about how much we eat, it's about what we eat, right? The quality of the food.
Absolutely. The quality matters a lot. And one of the sneakiest things about sugar, as the 21st Century Man points out, is how well it's hidden in our food supply.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not just in the obvious sweet treats.
Like, you have to be a detective.
Exactly. You really do.
Yeah.
We all know to be wary of candy and soda and cake, but this chapter does a fantastic job of exposing those seemingly innocent foods where added sugar is lurking.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples.
Think about it. Yogurt,
Really?
crackers,
I can-
even milk and fruit juice can have surprisingly high amounts of added sugar.
Right.
And then you move into the savory realm. Spaghetti sauce, peanut butter, salad dressings, ketchup. All of these can have added sugar.
I would never have thought about that.
It's everywhere.
Wow.
And to make it even trickier, the chapter actually lists all these different names that added sugar can go by on food labels. It's like they're trying to hide it from us.
Oh, yeah, they use all these fancy terms, right?
Exactly.
It's so confusing.
It can be really confusing. So you have things like agave, brown rice syrup, brown sugar, coconut sugar, corn sweetener, dextrose, fructose, fruit juice concentrate, glucose, high fructose corn syrup, honey, invert sugar, lactose, maltose, maple syrup, molasses, sorbitol, sorghum syrup, and sucrose.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. I mean, it's like a whole dictionary of sugar.
It really is. And the main point is that no matter what they call it, it all basically boils down to the same thing, added sugar. And when we're consistently consuming more sugar that our bodies can immediately use for energy, guess what happens?
It turns into fat.
Stored as fat.
Ugh, that's depressing. But I guess it's good to be aware of this stuff, right?
Awareness is key.
Yeah.
There's good news here. The 21st Century Man highlights a positive step towards greater transparency. It mentions the requirement that came into effect around mid-2021 for food manufacturers to specifically list added sugars on nutrition labels. So it's separate from naturally occurring sugars now.
Oh, that's helpful.
Right. Makes a big difference.
It does. So you can actually see how much added sugar you're getting.
Exactly. And the chapter even cites an analysis that suggests this labeling change could potentially prevent nearly 1 million cases of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes over a 20-year period.
Wow, that's huge.
It's huge. So just by being more informed, we can make healthier choices.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the chapter then talks about our body's primary fuel source, which is glucose.
Okay.
It explains how our bodies are designed to create glucose by breaking down the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats that we consume.
Right. So we need glucose, but it's about where we're getting it from.
That's exactly it. The book argues that humans are genetically wired for a whole food, plant-based diet. And this kind of diet, it's rich in complex carbohydrates, fiber, and a wide array of nutrients. It can provide all the high-quality fuel that our bodies need without any added sugar.
So we don't actually need all that extra sugar that we're getting.
We really don't. And this leads into another important distinction that the book makes between fast food and slow food.
Okay, I've heard those terms, but I'm not really sure what they mean in this context.
So it's not just about the speed at which food is prepared.
Okay.
Slow food, in this context, refers to foods that are high in fiber and are digested slowly by the body. And this slower digestion means that nutrients, including glucose, are released into the bloodstream gradually and steadily over time.
So it's like sustained energy release instead of that quick spike and crash.
Exactly. And the chapter gives some really helpful examples of these slow foods. Things like lean proteins, whole grains such as brown and wild rice, those fiber-packed salads, and raw vegetables. I particularly like the example of the Greek salad with all those delicious ingredients.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
It really paints a vivid picture of what a slow food meal could look like.
It makes it more tangible, doesn't it?
It really does.
So instead of just saying, eat more fiber, you have a clear idea of what that actually looks like on your plate.
Exactly. And now we get to what I think is one of the most important sections of the chapter, the side effects of sugar.
Okay, let's dive into the scary stuff.
Let's do it. This is where the book really gets into how high sugar consumption impacts our bodies and our minds.
Because it's not just weight gain, right? There's more to it.
It's so much more. It's like a domino effect. It can disrupt our hormones, lead to inflammation, mess with our mood and energy levels. It's a whole cascade of effects.
Wow.
So the chapter explains that when we eat sugar, our blood glucose levels spike. And to counter that, our pancreas releases insulin to help move that sugar out of the bloodstream and into our cells for energy or for storage, as we talked about earlier.
Right, storage is fat.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
But when we're constantly overloading our bodies with sugar, we essentially force our bodies to stay in this fat storage mode.
So it's like a never-ending cycle.
It can be, and it gets worse. The book goes on to explain how chronic high sugar intake can actually lead to insulin resistance.
Oh, I've heard of that. That's not good, right?
It's not good. It means our cells become less responsive to insulin, so the pancreas has to work even harder, pumping out more and more insulin.
And that can lead to all sorts of problems, right?
Exactly. It throws our hormones out of whack, and it can also negatively impact testosterone levels in men, which is a huge issue.
Yeah, testosterone is super important for men's health.
Vital.
Yeah.
And the book actually does a good job of outlining some of the key roles that testosterone plays. It supports a healthy heart. It's essential for building and maintaining muscle mass and strength, keeps our bones strong, helps with memory and focus, fuels our libido, and even influences our mood.
Wow, that's a lot of important stuff.
It really is. So when our testosterone levels take a hit, it can have a pretty wide-ranging impact on our overall well-being.
It makes sense. I've definitely noticed that when I'm eating a lot of sugary foods, I feel more sluggish, my mood is lower, and I just don't have as much energy for things.
It's definitely a connection there.
Yeah.
And it's not just testosterone. The chapter also talks about something called leptin resistance.
Leptin resistance. Okay. Tell me more about that.
So leptin is a hormone that regulates our appetite.
Okay.
It signals to our brain when we've had enough to eat, when we're full.
Right.
But overconsumption of sugar can actually make us resistant to leptin signals. So our fat cells keep producing leptin, but our brain stops recognizing those I'm full messages.
So we keep eating even when we're not actually hungry.
Exactly. And this can lead to a vicious cycle of continued overeating and weight gain. And as if that wasn't enough, leptin resistance can also contribute to lower testosterone production, which can further reduce our sex drive.
Man, sugar is like a double whammy. It makes us fat and kills our libido.
It really can be a double-edged sword, and the hits keep coming, right?
Yeah.
The book also highlights that too much sugar can hinder the production of human growth hormone, or HGH.
HGH, yeah, I've heard of that. It's the anti-aging hormone, right?
That's the one. And the increased insulin levels that result from high sugar intake can actually suppress HGH production. And this can contribute to issues like sexual dysfunction and just make us feel older than we are.
So sugar ages us faster.
It definitely doesn't help. And then, of course, there's the fatigue. That's another major side effect that the 21st century man talks about.
Yeah.
You might get that initial burst of energy from a sugary snack.
Right, the sugar rush.
The sugar rush. But it's inevitably followed by that energy crash. And when you combine that with the hormonal imbalances we just discussed, it can lead to frequent feelings of fatigue, low energy, and it really impacts our performance throughout the day.
It's like sugar gives us a quick high and then leaves us feeling worse than before.
Exactly. It's not sustainable energy.
Right.
And we can't forget about the most obvious side effect, weight gain, and the difficulty losing weight.
Yeah, that's the one everyone knows about.
It is. It's not just about the extra calories from the sugar. It also messes with our hormones and makes it harder for our bodies to burn fat effectively. Sugar is very inflammatory.
Inflammation, that's a big one, right?
It's huge. And the book explains that sugar is a highly inflammatory substance. And this chronic low-grade inflammation can manifest in all sorts of ways. You could have joint pain, stiffness, elevated blood pressure, and it increases your risk of developing heart disease over time.
So sugar is like a silent killer in a way.
It can be.
It's slowly damaging our bodies from the inside out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's another interesting point. The chapter delves into the impact of sugar on mental well-being. So it turns out that elevated blood sugar and insulin levels can lead to chronically higher levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Okay.
And this can result in increased feelings of stress and anxiety.
Wow, so sugar can actually make us more stressed out.
It can definitely contribute to it.
That's crazy. I never would have thought about that connection before.
It's not always obvious. And the 21st century man goes on to point out some lesser-known health risks associated with sugar, some of which are pretty specific to men.
Okay, I'm interested. Tell me more.
So one is the link between sugar, particularly the fructose found in sodas and other sugary drinks, and an increased risk of developing kidney stones.
Kidney stones. Ouch.
Not fun. And the book mentions a statistic that individuals who drink more than one regular soda per day have over a 23% increased risk of kidney stones. So that's significant.
That's a pretty big jump. I'm definitely going to think twice before grabbing another soda.
It's worth considering.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the classic one that we all hear about from a young age, tooth decay.
Right. Sugar rots your teeth.
It does. The book reminds us that when we eat sugar, it feeds the bacteria in our mouths, and these bacteria then produce acids that erode tooth enamel, leading to cavities.
It's basic chemistry, really.
It is.
But sometimes we forget about the basics.
Absolutely. And then there's a more serious condition that the book talks about, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD.
NAFLD, okay, I haven't heard of that one. What is that exactly?
So it involves the buildup of excess fat in the liver cells, and it's not caused by excessive alcohol consumption. It's becoming increasingly common, particularly in men over 40.
And what causes it?
Too much sugar.
Sugar again.
Sugar again. It's a major contributor. And the scary part is, it often goes undiagnosed until it's more advanced.
So it's kind of like a silent threat.
It can be, and it can potentially progress to more serious liver conditions, like cirrhosis and even liver cancer.
So it's really important to catch it early.
Absolutely. Early detection is key.
Right.
And then there's brain fog, something I think we can all relate to. The chapter explains how sugar can actually disrupt the balance of neurotransmitters in the brain, which can negatively impact our ability to focus, our memory, our mood, and can even make us feel drowsy.
Yeah, brain fog is the worst. It's like you can't think straight.
It really does make it hard to function at your best.
Totally.
And the 21st century man even gets into some potential links to health issues that are specific to men, particularly prostate problems. It raises the possibility of connection between high blood sugar and prostate inflammation, which could increase the risk of an enlarged prostate and even prostate cancer.
Okay, that's definitely something men need to be aware of.
It is. And then there's the whole concept of sugar addiction, which the chapter goes into in some detail. It explains how consuming sugar can actually trigger the same reward pathways in the brain as addictive substances like drugs and alcohol.
Wow, I've heard that before, but I didn't realize it was actually a real thing.
It is. And it can be really challenging to overcome. The chapter actually quotes Scientific American about a study where rats preferred highly sweetened water over intravenous cocaine, even when they were already addicted to cocaine.
Wow, that's crazy.
Pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, that's pretty telling.
And the 21st century man suggests that for those with a history of binge eating or difficulty setting healthy boundaries around food, they might actually be dealing with a true sugar addiction. And for these individuals, the book recommends considering complete avoidance of sugar, just like quitting smoking or alcohol.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, but sometimes that's what it takes to break free. And of course, there's the alternative that many people turn to when trying to cut back on sugar, which is artificial sweeteners.
Oh yeah, artificial sweeteners, they're everywhere.
They really are. We're talking about saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, all those zero-calorie sweeteners that you find in diet sodas and sugar-free products.
They seem like a good idea at first, right? You can still have that sweet taste without the calories.
Exactly. But the 21st century man points out that decades of research have actually linked artificial sweeteners to their own set of health problems. So they might not be the harmless alternative that we once thought.
Really? What kind of problems?
So one issue is the sheer intensity of their sweetness. Artificial sweeteners are often much sweeter than natural sugar, and the chapter suggests that this can lead to us constantly craving that super sweet taste, which can make naturally sweet foods like fruit less appealing.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, if you're used to something super sweet, regular fruit might not taste as good.
Exactly. It messes with our taste buds. And there's also the possibility that artificial sweeteners disrupt our body's ability to properly associate sweetness with caloric intake. So this could lead to even more cravings for sweet foods overall. And ironically, it might even contribute to weight gain.
Wow, that's kind of counterintuitive.
It is. The book actually cites the San Antonio Heart Study, which found that people who drank more than 21 diet drinks per week were twice as likely to become overweight or obese.
Wow, that's surprising.
It is surprising. And there's also research linking artificial sweeteners to more serious health concerns,
Yeah.
like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even some types of cancer.
So it's not a clear-cut solution.
It's definitely not. Replacing sugar with artificial sweeteners might not be the simple fix we once thought.
So what's the answer? If sugar is bad and artificial sweeteners are potentially harmful, what are we supposed to do?
Well, that's where the 21st century man steps in with some practical advice. The chapter has a whole section on how to get off sugar, and it offers some really actionable strategies for reducing our sugar intake and making healthier choices.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So the foundational principle is to focus on eating real, single-ingredient foods that are minimally processed. The book advises avoiding processed foods that are high in added sugars and refined carbohydrates.
Right. So basically cutting out the junk food.
Exactly. No more soda, candy, baked goods, fruit juices, canned fruit and syrup, low-fat or diet foods, and things made with refined white flour.
So basically sticking to whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, that sort of thing.
You got it. And the book emphasizes that it all starts at the grocery store. You don't bring those sugary processed foods into your home, you're less likely to eat them.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And for those times when you're craving something sweet, the chapter suggests some healthier beverage options. Things like sparkling water, lemon water, unsweetened herbal tea, plain coffee, or low-carb lattes made without sugar.
Okay, so basically ditching the sugary drinks.
Pretty much. And if you still want some flavor, try adding natural flavor alternatives like lemon or lime juice, ginger, cinnamon, vanilla extract, or a sprinkle of nutmeg.
Oh yeah, those are good ideas. They add flavor without the sugar.
Exactly. And for a healthier sweet treat, the book recommends enjoying whole fruits like berries, apples, or stone fruits. They provide natural sweetness along with fiber and other beneficial nutrients.
Right, nature's candy.
Exactly. And you could also try using fruit as a natural sweetener in your recipes.
Oh, that's a good tip.
And for those times when you absolutely need a touch of sweetness, the chapter suggests experimenting with natural, zero-calorie sweeteners like stevia or monk fruit extract.
Okay, so those are okay in moderation.
The book seems to suggest that they're a better option than artificial sweeteners, but it's always best to use them sparingly.
Right, everything in moderation.
Exactly. And of course, the chapter stresses the importance of becoming a savvy label reader. You really need to pay attention to the nutrition labels and look for added sugar in all its different forms.
Yeah, because sometimes it can be hidden in unexpected places.
It really can. And finally, the chapter reminds us that it's okay to ask for help if we're struggling to make these changes on our own. Working with a registered dietitian or joining a support group can provide valuable guidance and encouragement.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to make changes when you have support.
Absolutely. And the chapter concludes by highlighting all the positive benefits that men can experience by reducing their sugar intake. It's not just about avoiding potential health problems, it's about feeling better overall. You can have lower body fat, less joint pain, improved physical appearance, increased energy, greater confidence, and even a better sex life.
Wow, so kicking sugar can really improve our lives in so many ways.
It really can. It's about making a commitment to our health and well-being. And the book even provides a website, www.vitallandwell.com, for more information on this topic.
Great, I'll definitely check that out.
So that wraps up our deep dive into Chapter 32 of The 21st Century Man, all about kicking sugar. We hope this exploration has been informative and given you some practical takeaways to apply in your own life.
Yeah, it's been really eye-opening. I learned a lot about sugar that I didn't know before.
Me too. And as always, we encourage you to pick up a copy of the book and read the full chapter yourself to get the complete picture.
And be sure to join us next time for another deep dive.
That's right. We'll be tackling Chapter 33, Weight Loss Strategies, which ties in perfectly with what we discussed today.
Can't wait. See you then.
See you then.